should be being recorded now. So the agenda, I'll just post a link to that again, just so that everybody has it. I added a few things to the agenda. Feel free to just shout out if there's something else you want to talk about. There was one bug report that was filed against SROS 2. I don't know if everybody saw that. I think Mikhail was working that one. I don't know, Mikhail, are you good? Do you have what you need, or do you need anything else from the group?
No, it's good. It's fixed. Just waiting for a release on their side. Okay.
All right. Thanks a bunch for handling that. So the next thing I just wanted to cover briefly, if you recall, this summer we had talked about the vol remediation procedure, and we had gone through a document, a Google Doc, and made some comments on it and reviewed it. And that sat for a while. I actually had the opportunity to work through a vol. It was actually in ROS 1. But it was a CVE, it was an integer overflow issue in ROS.com and ROS 1. And I figured it'd be a good opportunity to try out the procedure, and everything seemed to work fine. Not a lot of urgency, as you can imagine, but it just, given the way the community works, it was real easy to kind of work through. So I took all that, fed that back into the document that we worked with. And then posted a pull request up to the community page. So if you have a few minutes, if you can take a look at that pull request and add any comments on it. And my thinking was that we would end up just leaving it on the community page and link to it, or the community's GitHub site, link to it as we need to. I don't think it needs to be much more public than that right now. But again, that's primarily as a tool for the folks that are on the security distribution list for how to handle the reports when they come in. So does anybody have any comments or thoughts on that? All right, I'll take that as a no and move on. And again, if you get a chance to review that, it'd be great to see if you any feedback you have. So the next thing that I had added to the agenda was the ongoing discussion about how to configure ROS without a file system. In particular, from our standpoint, it was the security bits, as we were talking about it last time around. We thought about the larger engineering problem that's not just for ROS 2, but for ROS as a whole. And we had some good thoughts there. I tried to take them out to the community and didn't get a lot of traction. I got one person that was interested in talking more out of the embedded working group, and a little bit of comments on the after a post on Discourse. I think people are open to it, but I don't see anybody actually wanting to push it forward. So I'm looking for you to say where you want to go from here. Do you want me to set up a meeting with the folks that we've gathered, which will probably mostly just be the security working group? Where do you want to go from here?
Did we have a co-meeting with the embedded working group yet?
No, so I've reached out to them in their, they have a Slack channel. I got one person that was interested from eProsima, but I haven't followed up with that. I was trolling for some more folks to get interested and post it out to Discourse.
Who's their working group organizer?
Yeah, now I have to pull ancient memory here.
And I think eProsima is handling it. It's someone from eProsima, Francesca maybe.
Sorry. Yeah. I think it's Francesca, the one who is with all these issues. I mean, for what I know, because I was talking with them after our last meeting, and for what they told me, they are indeed interested in collaboration, or in at least in having some meeting in order to exchange some impressions about the issue, and helping us figure out what are the possibilities. So I don't know if you said are looking for anyone else who may be interested or not, but if there is, if no one else seems to be really wanted to be part of this, I would say just go and plan a meeting and move it forward.
Okay. All right, I could do that. That was actually Pablo from Apercima that replied.
Yeah, they work together.
Yeah, okay. And the post was actually to micro ROS, so the ROS embedded working group just points everything to the micro ROS Slack channel. So that's where I kind of called out for folks. So I'll go ahead and just follow up on discourse and just call for dates if that works with everybody, and try to coordinate something.
Sounds great for me.
Okay. All right, so that gives me an action item there. Is there anything else we need to discuss now, or we're just going to table everything until then?
I think if when that meeting is set, it would be good to also like update the Discourse thread. It's still a pretty niche issue because like basically the original report was also from the MicroROS folks, and so I think like the two main parties involved in this would be the security working group and the embedded one. But if we actually make a meeting, it would be good to like give it more visibility on Discourse, just in case some open robotics folks want to join or some just other people interested from the community.
Okay. All right, so I'll do that. I'll schedule that out, and then if you see it show up on Discourse, if you can, do anything to promote it, that'd be great. I'll schedule that probably for about 2 weeks out or so, just to make sure in case, so we got time to coordinate. So the only other thing was something that Marco had put on the agenda for launch files. I don't see him here. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. Just in lieu of that, Ted, do you want to? I mean, is there anything interesting you want to give an update on Launch Secure or how that's moving along?
Not really. It's been proposed, and we're waiting to see what's going on with it. There was a little comment about how technically we're doing a hacky solution in assuming that there's no namespace that the node places itself in code. But we know that, and that's a necessary workaround to get Launch Secure up and running.
Are there any active links to that? Like the agenda just doesn't have a link, anything.
No, I can slap that in a little bit, but it is a pull request on ROS2/launch ROS.
I added a link to the agenda.
Yeah, I'll add that on. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Thank you.
I get one topic that's not in there, and I don't know if it was discussed last meeting because I missed it, was about the permissions file and the size of the permissions file. I remember Kyle mentioned that he would take an action item and like unprettify or uglify, I don't know what would be the right word, the XML files and the signed XML files. I haven't seen any issue on SROS2 for that. I just wanted to know if it's something that we still want to pursue as a temporary workaround, or if it was decided to not move forward with that idea.
So it was not discussed, unless I missed it, as I was paying attention at our last meeting. I don't know that Kyle has done any work on it. You know, he's been kind of busy, just keeping up after Joe left. So I could follow up with him about that. Does anybody else have any other thoughts about, you know, compressing the, not compressing, but uglifying the permissions files and whatnot?
I just scream inside. I wish we didn't have to do it.
That was your idea, though.
I know. I should have just kept silent.
No, and so I considered, like, I mean, especially if Kyle is busy, we don't necessarily like have to get him involved, like in a sense that like it seems like a very simple thing to do. I guess the only question that would be like around that is like, do we actually compress every S-MIME, like uglify every S-MIME signed file, or do we want to have this like especially for permissions file? Basically, do we want to have specific logic in the code to apply this, or we can do it in a generic way, because we have basically one code path for all XML files that get signed, that generated and
I think we might be able to do it with another add-on to the XML template, but actually it might be easier to do in Python. But yeah, it certainly can be kept to the very last stages and then optional by the user. I think
yeah, my idea was to
be on by default or off by default.
I would do on by default, but apply it only to the signed files and not the XML files. And I would assume that if users want to check what's in their key store or whatever, they would just look at the XML files, because it's just like, you would have like, I don't know, color, like syntax highlighting and whatever, which you wouldn't have on a P7S file. So I was thinking of just keeping the XML file as is, and when we get like to the stage from XML to signed XML, just uglify it in line. And so I'm thinking of doing that in Python because that seems easier than in XSL, but it's mostly because I'm more familiar with Python.
Yeah, and the S-MIME signing stuff is already in Python. It's a good code path.
Okay, so I guess the next step is I just open an issue on SROS2 to be able to like track that, like we are actually like we have that on our plate and we're planning on addressing it, and this way we have like a place to track it, and not only on.
Okay, so I got that. I got you down as the as an action item there to open the issue. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Does anybody else have anything to add to the agenda? Anything that you want to cover?
Did we have any bigger goals we want to try and work towards before G-Turtle? Besides maybe the file system.
Well, a couple of things I haven't tracked recently, but that I would be pretty interested in is getting SROS2 to like getting the quality level stuff going. And another thing that like Kyle has been working on a bit back was to be able like stabilize a bit the API to like basically actually follow Semver with a major version for SROS2, because that's also like related to what the quality levels require. And so basically decide what API you want to expose in Galactic, and kind of like set that not in stone, but at least like for that release, and claim 1.0.
So our current consumer Republic API is most likely going to be, or the soonest one is the launch stuff.
Yeah, actually, it's the launch stuff. Maybe that's another action item, like another discussion item. But like the changes that were necessary for that have been merged and released in rolling, so they will make it into Galactic, even if we do nothing. But it's still like we're at 0.10 right now.
Has what was our main blocker with the quality level stuff? Was it still our ROS2 CLI?
Actually, I think it was RCL Pi. I mean both, but like one being like an implication for the other. I think also Python stack didn't get like much love in general, but also the quality level stuff. And so I don't know if that moved recently because I didn't look more closely. But I think like in general, we have like few users, and most of our users are getting confused because we have little documentations and not that many tutorials. So regardless of what like quality level we could claim at the end of the day, it would be good if we could like make progress in the overall area of like documenting our code and like all these parts of the quality levels that like were very low on.
I think presently we showcase the entire CLI surface. Is there something specific users are looking for?
No, I think it's more like in general when people want to say, okay, let's go like closer to see how it works, and like our code doesn't have comments in it. Like our features are not very well documented. We have like a simple tutorial that kind of like covers most of the CLI. I don't think it covers like basically runtime introspection of a system that like gives you the list of topics or anything. And I think it's mostly on purpose, is because we're not very satisfied with it. So as far as the tutorial is concerned, yeah.
Okay.
But
You
no,
mean-
I think it's more about like the code itself. Like there are a lot of things that like we said we would do and then like didn't have time to do. We wanted to like modernize a bit the code, like properly use typing MyPy everywhere, using passlib everywhere. And right now we've been doing small incremental changes, which is like progress, but we didn't make like as much progress as we hoped to do for Foxy, and I think expected to do by Galactic.
Can you think of any way that we can just build that punch list? It sounds like you're thinking like a number of small things as opposed to one or two large things.
Yeah, so for the quality level itself, there is an issue that I put together before Foxy that was listing basically what we were complying with and what we were not. I just drop it in the chat right here. So obviously this list hasn't been updated for a while, so it may have changed. But we tick a lot of boxes, and where we don't tick boxes is basically the documentation and testing parts. And so these are like the overall like items I think we can do better, not only for like that specific quality level claiming thing, but just in general, it would be good. And then I think we could collect issues for smaller things, like, improving, like giving types in function signatures or migrating to passlib or things like that. We could collect like small issues for that. I don't think we have them, like we have some for this.
So some of this documentation is not just user-facing tutorials. It's like the Sphinx docs for the public API.
Yeah, I think the go together is just basically if we have proper doc blocks generating Sphinx documentation is pretty trivial. The missing, like the main part is having doc blocks for all our functions, explaining what they do, what they can raise, these kind of things.
Gotcha.
Would it be worth it to capture that as part of the notes, just so we have it in front of us when we, when we meet once every 2 weeks or so? Is that the way to keep it in front, or is there another vehicle that would work better?
I think having them as like pending action items or like in the notes, I think it's a good way, because like I have the feeling that since Foxy, everyone involved in the working group has been like pretty busy, and so except from like looking at the agenda and attending meetings, we have like fairly little time to work on things. So that's a good way to keep it at the front of our mind for whenever we have time.
Yeah. Okay. So let me take a note then. I'll take the stuff that's in the quality evaluations you did, that issue, and I'll roll that into the notes with the action items somehow, just to keep it in front of us every time we meet, and then when we have a few minutes extra, we could talk or try to check off things bit by bit. So, are there any larger things? Are there any larger things? I know last for Foxy, there's a huge re-engineering for the enclave issues. There's nothing like that pending for gturtle, right?
I don't see the sky falling yet.
yeah. Not that I know either, but I'm also like not looking at the signs as closely as before. I think the only couple of things that have changed is like, for example, I merged and released a new version of Restore in Rolling to take the fact that the parameter event topics became an absolute topic. But other than like small changes like that in like common interfaces, I didn't see anything significant that will impact the security side.
There is some stuff like maybe like we're reaching out to embedded for file systemless security access. One thing is we may want to cross-pollinate a little bit more with the middleware working group and see if we can root out this kind of paradigm of global parameter spaces and event topics, and see how if we can keep the computation graph still a little bit more minimal. I feel we're like sort of the feature creep is expanding. We're suddenly, to even have a basic node running, you have to give it pretty extensive permissions.
Yeah, I guess part of the thing is that like one of the part of the reason for that was like on the Discord thread where we discussed this. Basically, the thing we're complaining about were qualified as bugs that should be fixed in ROS 2. But I don't know if there is anyone like on the ROS 2 core side of things working to address those. We're talking about like service clients and servers, for example, as well, where like nodes need like parameter access, like access to every parameter service in both direction and things like that. And so maybe one thing we could do is try to like, I don't know, poke people that work on these parts of the stack to see if we can get that ball rolling to limit a bit the extent of the permissions needed by default by all nodes.
Another thing we could probably do is maybe as a motivation is come up with some example cases like that. That kind of helped us root out the size limitation, is when we applied SROS2 to the entire navigation 2 stack and realized the shortcoming. So maybe if we come up with another kind of classic robot example and implementation and demonstrate, it's sort of impossible to isolate these two subsystems sufficiently given these crosstalk potential and requirements inherent of the current setup. That might help drive home the what needs to sort of be solved and give a realistic example on, yeah, if we came up with implementation, it would solve it for that.
Yeah, for sure. I love demonstrators. Like that's just the best way to like, and dog fooding as well. Like just to see like how our own system works. I don't know. Do you have any like any? I know you've been looking at AutoWare, or like, do you have any project or like idea of demonstrators that we could do in simulation that could allow us to explore more these aspects?
Yeah, I've been iterating with AutoWare, but it's their whole stack has sort of been in flux, where it's sort of compatible with Foxy, but still is tied to dashing, and LGV simulator is changing their bridge interfaces. They have like two bridges, one that's shipped by LGV and one that's built on a C# wrapper of art, for RCL that hasn't been open source. So it's been really hard to get the entire stack running for, like, say their demo they did for the parking lot.
Yeah, that's tricky. I don't know if anyone is involved with other working groups. Like maybe if like I know like Movie 2, for example, had been trying to like keep up with recent ROS 2 releases. Maybe we could explore a manipulation aspect, something that has like navigation and manipulation that would give us a pretty decent sized graph to explore like the permission space.
Yeah, that may be a good avenue. They have certainly a complex and rich enough graph, and it'd still be sort of self-contained, a little less open scope as autonomous driving, but more well-defined, like pick and place. It might be more relatable to other roboticists that commonly use ROS and are developers.
So this feels a lot like the use case discussion that we've had, I think, a couple of times. So yeah, we need to continue. I don't know if we got anything concrete out of it, but I think the idea of getting that implementation example is key.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if it's something like because like I would love to work on this, but I'm struggling to find time to just like keep up with maintenance. But is it something that like as a working group we would like to like work on, and we could like split in like milestones or like small bits and pieces here and there to have maybe a demonstrator, like not for ROS World this year, but maybe for a conference or for an online workshop or something, like maybe setting a goal with like a specific place to demonstrate it would help us move forward on that front.
My gut feel is that there's a good chance you'd get some interest out of the Move It folks. And the reason I say that is because we've seen a lot of interest in just in that area in security in general. I think they're more ready for it probably than the AutoWare is. So I wonder if that's an opportunity for collaboration, right? That's some sort of joint project. Again, I think they're being pushed by the corporate implementations that are saying, hey, we want to see security, we want to see encryption on by default, things like that. So I wonder if does anybody have any connections into Move It or in that side of the house that it might be worth exploring?
They're the move it is discussed during the manipulation working group. Is that correct? Looks like the next one is November 26th.
Yeah, I could see if I could dig into that a little bit more. I think we had a few conversations with some folks. Let me see where that goes. So I'll take an action item and see if I can do some exploring of that. So if we do, the idea of creating a demo, a use case somehow related to Move It could be pretty interesting. So
I guess my mic. Okay. Yeah, one thing that just popped into my mind. I know we are over time, so I'll be very short. But one thing I explored and that we never got past the prototype stage was to expose the ability to separately sign or encrypt different topics. And that's something that's currently not possible in SROS 2. In SROS 2 right now, it's just encrypt all. And in this kind of application where you have control and like move it and manipulators and things like that, that may be one of their possible requirements, or at least in a matter of performance, not to have to encrypt every control message that may be at pretty high frequency. So that may be something we could also explore aside from this project, or it could be our contribution to a part of our contribution to that project.
that's interesting. Cool. All right, so I'm going to try and capture all that in the notes, and then I'll push that out to you. And as Mikhail mentioned, we're at time. So I guess I'll just say, hopefully I'll see you all at ROS World on, was it Thursday? Yeah, unless does anybody else have anything to add before we close?
There's a quick comment on what Mikhail said. In addition to extending the flexibility of sign and encrypt, it may be also worth exploring different setups for the PKI or the certificate authority setup. Where we earlier, we had this idea of where you have the vendor and OEM key material, and then you might have the user, and then you might have some overlap in the graph on where they both have access to, but you can still separate based on how you're muxing your certificate authorities. That's what, maybe just tie that in. That's cool.
Cool. All right. All right, so with that, I'll say thanks a lot for joining, and I'll post the meeting minutes up, and I'll see you all at our next meeting or on Thursday. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks for organizing.
You
Awesome.
bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Take care.